What's happening? Great to have us all in one room, except for you, Olivia. That's why we're recording. So, today we're going to be talking a little bit about AS English. Okay. Have you guys seen a paper yet for AS English? No, yes, no, don't, yes, and then obviously you have. It's okay if you haven't. Okay, because what we're going to be talking about today is not past paper related necessarily, it's theory related. It's basically understanding how to be a good AS English student. What skills do you need to have, what knowledge do you need to have in order to be a good AS English student? And to answer that, we need to understand why we study AS English in the first place. Yeah, whatever, it's a matric subject, it's a university subject, that's true. But more than that, it's teaching you a very specific skill set. It's teaching you how to be an effective communicator. Okay? That's at the core of English. That's why we speak any language, is to communicate. Okay? But communication is a broad term. Why do we communicate is the question we want to answer. And to answer that, we have to understand the different functions of language. So what we get into the core to is why do we actually communicate with each other in the first place? If we answer that, then we can understand the different forms that language takes, written and verbal, and then break that up into even more categories, okay, what we call forms. And that's where we learn about things like essays and editorials and scripts and newspaper articles and speeches. All those kinds of things come out of different purposes, different functions that we have for language. I've got a question for you guys. What function of language am I performing by speaking to you right now? What is the purpose of my communicating with you? Because that's what I'm doing, right? Why am I doing that? What's the point? Informative. I'm trying to inform you how to be a good AS English student. Hello, Peter. Pop on my desk. Thank you.
You're running the computer or on the desk?
Just on the desk. Thank you. I'm informing you how to be a good AS English student. Okay. Up there at break, you guys chatting to anyone? Luke, you're messaging someone, I see?
What?
At your desk during break?
No.
You're just chilling. Okay, so you weren't being communicative, but those of you that were being communicative, what was the function of your communication? Why were you doing it?
Social bonding.
Social bonding, hanging out, having a good time, chilling, okay? Purely just social. Enjoyment, if you will, okay? When you're having to have a Christmas lunch with your grandmother, okay? That's also a form of social contact, okay? How about if you're writing a comment on a YouTube video? That also has a function, okay? That function can be different. Maybe you're really angry at the video and you're trying to put forward a point of view as to why you thought the video was stupid and uninformed. Maybe it's encouraging. Maybe you're trying to say, hey, great video. Love this. Keep up the good work. Maybe it's critical. Maybe you're trying to point out some errors in the way the person made the video and what they're talking about. You guys get what I'm trying to get at though, right? Is that language has different purposes. In AS English though, why do we care? We care because every commentary you ever write from here on out, I want you guys to think very carefully about what the function of the text that you're looking at is. Answer the question, why does it exist? Because you can find every simile, you can find every metaphor, you can find every piece of onomatopoeia and every single figure of speech in that text. But if you can't answer the question of purpose, why it exists, you're going to miss the point of the commentary. The commentary always starts the same way. The prompt for the commentary, it's what three things? What three things are those? Analyze the something, something, and something.
Structure.
Form, structure, what more? Language. You guys want to say that right? Notice every single one starts like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, right at the center here, we've got purpose. We communicate for a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, you're not communicating. Any communication you do, even when you stub your toe and you say shit, that has a purpose. It's you expressing yourself, it's expressing your pain and trying to let out steam. That has a purpose, not just saying that to say it. Your purpose is at the core of AS English. But then, from that, we've got our always start with the worst marker. That's what we're going to do. From that, we've got form, we've got structure, and we've got language. Okay. We're going to do these in order. We're going to start with form, we're going to go to structure, and then we're going to go to language. Okay. But first, just make sure everyone understands purpose when it comes to language. Okay. There's different language functions. We talk about in informative language, instructional language, imperative language. You can learn about those in the book. We're not going to talk about that now. I just want you to get the big ideas first. We'll fill in the gaps later. Based on that, based on what your purpose is, that then decides what form you need to take. Okay. Let me give you an example. Guy, in our class, let's say I was having an issue with students. Okay. I had a student that was on their phone all the time. Okay. There are different ways that I can communicate with that student in order to get the message across to them. Okay. And the purpose of what I'm trying to do will change the form. Okay. So at first, maybe my purpose is just informative. I just want to inform the student, hey, I've seen you on your phone a lot. You need to spend this time on your phone. I'm trying to inform the student, and I'm also requesting something of them. Okay. And because of that, because it's a very informal, chatty kind of game, my form is just someone to speak to them. Okay. If it's an ongoing issue though, and they're not listening to me anymore, I'll send an email to their parents. The form has changed. Why? Because the purpose has changed. At first, it's to inform them. Later, it's to force them. And in order to force them, you send an email rather than me speaking to them. The purpose decides what the form is going to be. Okay, say that I am someone who really likes movies, okay, which I am, really like movies. And I enjoy talking to movies with my friends, okay. The purpose there is informative. I get to tell them my thoughts and feelings. It's expressive because I get to express my opinions. It's also social because I'm talking with my friends. Okay. The second the purpose changes, and my purpose is now, well, I want to share my ideas with the world. I can make a YouTube video because that is a form, or I can do a podcast because those are forms that can reach a wider audience. Okay. These are all ideas that don't come up often in commentaries. When you talk about commentaries, we immediately think of specific language analysis. And you should, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't be thinking about that. But think about that in context of what is this form and how does it tie back to the purpose? Okay. If you guys open up your books, okay, there is a unit in the book, unit 1.2, which is page 8, talking about understanding form and structure. Okay. Form, it defines as another word for type. But it is more useful because it relates to the shape and overall presentation of the text. Okay. So it's what is this text actually? What type of text is it? And you can see on the page across, we've got an advert. Okay. And the advert, we can see the overall look of it is it's got pictures, it's got subheadings that include alliteration, trips and treats, rest and relaxation, pretty photos, cool font changes. But the only reason we have any of those things is because it relates to the form of an advert. That's how adverts work. And why do adverts work like that? Because the purpose is to get you, the consumer, the customer, to engage in an economic transaction. Book tickets for a holiday. That's the purpose, which tells you the form, which now tells you what the language and structure looks like. Are you guys following this thread? Okay. So, form is just a word for type. Okay, but now, what is structure? Okay, structure is just, as defined here, the way the text is organized and ordered. It can relate both to the whole text or features of a text. Okay, but notice we're not talking about words yet. Okay, think about it this way. Zoom out and the big picture is just the form. What is this overall text? This text is a speech, or it is an advert. You zoom in a little bit, and it's like, okay, how is this speech, advert, whatever it is, how is it organized? Okay? Is it laid out in lots of subheadings? Is it written as one long column? Is it someone's name, and then a colon, and then a bunch of writing? Those are structural things. If you zoom in even further, you can see more structural devices. Syntax, is a structural device, okay? So the way the sentences are ordered, okay, and the way they're structured. Check this adverb quickly. Come to Yawela Island and be our guest. Short, imperative, commanding sentence. It's telling you, be our guest. Our unique package enables you and your partner to stay in luxurious lodges perched on top of pure white sand of your own private beach. The syntax there is long and flowing and lulling, trying to draw the reader in to this picture that they're trying to paint. With room service at your fingertips any time of the day, you'll want for nothing. These are structural devices, okay? It's relating to syntax. But if we zoom in even further, we get to language. And language is very much about the words and phrases that are used that reinforce the structure, that reinforce the form, that reinforce the purpose. So in this, we've got very positive letters: unique, luxurious, pure. These are all words that make this place sound exclusive, special, interesting. More than that though, we've got use of second person perspective. You'll want for nothing, okay? Our unique package is first person collective. It makes it sound like there's a team of people just waiting to service you. These are language devices, okay? Does this make sense to you guys so far? So we're just breaking down what these three things are and how they're all linked to purpose. Let's turn to a different text and just try to compare with something that's a little different. Turn the page. Something important to understand about the way texts work is that it's very rare that just by reading the text you'll immediately understand the purpose. The most useful information in your AS English exam is going to be the little bit of writing before they've even given you the text at the top of the page. That is the most useful information because it will tell you what the form is. It'll tell you potentially who the writer is, and it'll tell you who potentially the audience is. Okay? If you understand those things, then you will understand probably how the structure and language relates to what the overall purpose is. So this, for example, just before it says form and structure are easy to see and comment on in highly visual texts such as advertisements and brochures, but are more difficult to identify in texts that are predominantly prose, i.e. lots of words. As soon as you see lots of words, who knows? This could be a magazine article, this could be a piece of descriptive writing, we can't know for sure. Read the following passage taken from The Flowers by Alice Walker. It is not the opening of the story, but comes shortly after the girl described has left her house. What's the form? Gave it to you there. Blink and you miss it. What's the key word? Story.
Narrative.
Potentially narrative. Could be a descriptive passage, could be narrative, but it's a story. It's given us the form. What is the point of stories? Why do we write stories? What's the purpose? You guys have read some books, I assume. Why did you read those books? What's the point? Entertainment, interest, to be drawn in maybe to someone's experience, to experience a new world. Books, even stories have different purposes within them, but basically we read them for enjoyment and entertainment. Okay? So immediately, if you were to write a commentary on this, we haven't looked at a single word of what's there, but already in your head you should have a bunch of, not assumptions, but some educated guesses as to the angle you're going to attack the commentary from. Now, we know that, okay, it's probably written for enjoyment and that type of thing. What does the text actually involve? She had explored the woods behind the house many times. Often, in late autumn, her mother took her to gather nuts among the fallen trees. Today, she made her own path, bouncing this way and that way, vaguely keeping an eye out for snakes. She found, in addition to various common but pretty ferns and leaves, an armful of strange blue flowers with velvety ridges and a sweet suds bush full of the brown, fragrant buds. Now immediately, we figured out it's a story, we said it's for enjoyment, starting to look at the structure of the language, we can put some pieces together. There's lots of very descriptive lexis. Okay? There's lots of those long flowing sentences that we talked about to paint a beautiful, serene scene of a little girl walking around in the woods outside her home. But you kind of had a guess to that because we just read the prompt. We just read Red Set Story, and we already primed our brains for what we were about to read. Let's do another one. Okay? Let's go to, I'm just literally going to choose the next text I see in this book. Okay. Let's do, no, those are a bit too obvious. Man, why can't you just give us a regular ass text? Okay, here. Go to page 44. Sorry, I know that's like way ahead of where I said. Okay, those of you that did the coursework probably recognize this piece. So, it doesn't give anything before, but what does it start with? The dates. What forms of text start with dates? Diaries. We've got a clue. Check the end of the piece. From the journals of Denton Walsh. This is a journal/diary. Okay, what is the purpose of a journal or diary? Why do people write those?
Personal account.
Personal accounts. Okay, so something that happened and they're writing it down. What other purposes are there for journals and diaries? If it's a personal account, then technically the way that you could write it was, I went to the mall today, I bought a loaf of bread and a 2-liter bottle of Coke. I went home, I ate the bread and drank the Coke. I went to sleep. That's a personal account, right? What's it missing? Why doesn't that feel like a journal or a diary? No emotion. And that's the other purpose of a journal or a diary, is an account, not just of events, of thoughts and feelings and emotional and personal experiences. The word you use there, guys, personal, that's the key. It's a personal piece of writing. So often we're going to see them sharing things that they're not always willing to share with other people. You start reading this, I'm going to go full analyst mode in this to just like hammer home this point. Yesterday, okay, immediately we've got a contextual clue to a point earlier in time for this person's experience. It helps us position where they are. Up early in the morning, the washing, the dressing, the brushing, then to the station on my bicycle. It's written from first person perspective, as a diary or journal entry would be. The washing, the dressing, the brushing, that's repeated syntactical structure. It's trying to create the sense that there is a routine that this person is following. Maybe they enjoy this routine. Maybe this routine gives them some kind of comfort. Let's keep reading. Everything planned, everything done. The ticket bought, the clean gloves in the pocket. Again, you've got a repeated syntactical structure there.
Isn't it ace and Dixon?
Yes, it is. Well spotted, Cara. Ace and Dixon. For those of you that don't know, that is the absence of a conjunction. This technically, grammatically should say, everything was planned and everything was done. But it's omitted the, I believe it's a passive verb. Sorry, my grammar's not too good. But more importantly, it's omitted the conjunction. There's no and in between those. Why? It's trying to create a sense of pace. This person did everything very quickly that morning. Okay, that's a literary technique. Everything planned, everything done. The ticket bought, the gloves clean in the pocket. So that is 3 lines that we've got there. But we're able to deduce so much meaning out of those 3 lines because we looked at the prompt, we got the contextual clues, we thought about what the purpose was, we figured out what the form was, and then based on that, the structure and language devices, the structural devices of ace and datum and repeated syntactical structure, and I don't know if we found any language devices. No, we didn't. Maybe perspective, I don't know. Those now make sense in context of what this piece is and what it's trying to do. Any questions so far? Cool. Let's turn much later in the red section of the book, i.e. the A section of the book, to a different text. Let's see if we can find one that's too far, that's extended writing. Shorter written response. Okay, here we go. Page 122. Actually, sorry, 120. Let's do 120. Okay. This whole chapter is pretty great because it talks about understanding and analyzing the text. And by the way, if I can just take a step back, if ever you guys aren't feeling secure in the way that you are analyzing texts or writing your commentaries, come back to this book. This book's got lots of really useful information on guiding you through that process. Getting an overview. Whilst these pointers are not a sequence of steps you should always follow, get the overview may well be the first thing you do when you read an unfamiliar text. To do this, read each paragraph of the text in turn and look for what is expressed directly. At this stage, you are looking to form quick judgments about the main focus of the text, not looking for specific details to make wider inferences. For example, read the following passage from a newspaper article. Okay, so basically the reason that I read that out loud is that there's another step you can take. Don't just read the brief and make a bunch of assumptions. You can read the brief, make some educated guesses, and then read over, like just literally skim over the paragraphs in a piece to see if the guesses that you have made are correct. In this instance, it's what's the form? It's a newspaper article, right? Why do people write newspaper articles? What's the purpose? Why do they exist? To inform, potentially, about what kind of issues? Is there any generally world issues? Things that relate to the audience, okay? Remember, in communication, we've got a writer / speaker, okay, because we've got scripts as well, right? Okay? They are sending the message, and that is going to the audience. The message is the form. The purpose is why that writer is sending that. And these choices affect the way the audience is going to receive that message. Okay, so in this instance, this writer has decided to use a newspaper article. How many people does a newspaper article reach? Narrow audience or broad audience? Much broader audience. So the issues that they're discussing are probably going to be widely applicable. Okay, it's not going to be their trip on the train that morning, like the journal. That's a very personal experience, and that's not actually written for anyone. This is a much broader audience. So let's just skim read, and I'm literally going to just read some things, some random words that pop out to me from this, and see if you guys can pick up what this article is about. Visiting the Trevi Fountain these days, you can feel uncannily, like attending a rock concert. Breeze through. The camera phone has been an unavoidable part of the travel experience. Next paragraph, there are plenty of travelers ready to sound off on the topic of how the selfie circus is destroying the whole travel experience. Skim through, go to the last bit here. Personally, I'm skeptical of this argument, which tends to be long on incentive and short on facts. And then, from where? Selfies. Are they ruining travel? By Uti Yanka, The Courier. Okay, so it's from a newspaper. What is this person talking about? We half-assedly just read this. But yet you guys probably have an idea about what they're talking about. Talking about people who are on their phones all the time and traveling. We didn't even read the text. We just looked at some words and some sentences, and you can put that together. It can also help now us look back at what we think the purpose might be. We said it's to inform. Now we can look at it and say, oh, the person's putting an opinion forward maybe. Maybe they're trying to discuss this issue. Maybe they're sharing their ideas about this topic. And we got that much more just from sort of, again, half-assedly kind of reading through it and drawing some more details from that. Okay. Are you guys following this process so far? Does this make sense? Cool. Now let's take a step away from commentaries, because we've been talking about form, structure, and language, which are the three words that we'll like using in commentaries, and it's good to know that. Here's the funny thing though. Understanding this and understanding this helps you become a better writer as well. Because now in any piece of writing you ever do, you can shape your message, the form it's taking, the structure it's using, and the language devices, and you can perfectly craft it to be accepted by the audience that you're intending it for. Let me give you an example. I'm chatting to you guys now. It's a workshop, okay? So it's relatively formal because I'm an English teacher and I have to sound formal. That's context appropriate. But it's also not too formal. I'm saying that it's like half-acidly and I'm directly addressing you guys. Why? Because that draws your attention in. That means that none of you are daydreaming too much. But if all of a sudden my purpose and audience were to change, and all of a sudden I was speaking to all of your parents at a parents' evening, okay, am I going to talk the way I'm talking right now? Absolutely not. My tone is going to be completely different, my style is going to be completely different, because my audience has changed. Right now, I'm just informing you guys and discussing with you some general English ideas. At a parents' conference, I might be addressing some issues that are affecting their children, and so the nature of the subject that I'm talking about means that I have to be more careful with my words. I have to be more considered. In fact, I probably write something up beforehand to make sure that I don't accidentally make a faux pas and say something dumb in front of your parents. Versus, yeah, I don't care about doing that because you guys aren't that judgmental. Okay. So basically, understanding this, in that instance, helps me a better writer. Let's make this more applicable. You open up your paper 2 in your exam, right? The first directed writing that you get is that you need to write an article for your school magazine about the benefits of owning a pet. Okay. That sounds like an IGCSE level prompt, to be honest with you. Okay, in fact, I'm pretty sure that is from IG English somewhere. You guys are asked to do that. But how does this help you understand how to be a better writer for a prompt like that? Well, immediately, magazine article, we've been given the form. Okay, in order to get a good mark, you need to abide by the rules of that form, i.e. it needs to read and sound like a magazine article. It's given you the purpose as well, though, hasn't it? It's told you are discussing the benefits. So what's the purpose? Why are you writing this? What is the point?
Persuade them.
It's going to have a persuasive tone. Is persuasive?
It's not going to talk negatively about owning a pet.
Definitely not. What word in the prompt tells us that? Benefits. Not benefits and disadvantages. Benefits. You notice how we've taken that skill of reading the brief before a text that we've been doing in the textbook, and now you're doing that same thing, but for your own writing. That's the skill set that we've got to develop. Reading every little word in the brief, thinking about how that informs our purpose, our form, and then based on that, structure and language. The structure of a magazine article, generally an introduction, various body paragraphs that explore different aspects of the issue, and then some kind of conclusion or summary to drive all those points home and leave the reader with something thoughtful to think about. If it's persuasive, maybe leaving them with the idea you want them to have, i.e., think about getting a pet. Might be good for you. That's the takeaway. So because we've now cracked the purpose, all of this falls into place. For our language, we're going to use very positive lexis. Maybe we're going to use lots of metaphors and similes. Maybe, because it's persuasive, we're going to use some rhetorical questions. Your opening can even be a rhetorical question. Have you ever laid in your bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wishing some little fur baby would snuggle up to you as you lull yourself into your dreams? Well, I've got great news for you. Isn't that a great opening? Why? Because I've used a language device that's purpose appropriate. Do you see how cracking the purpose helps you guys? And the second you've got that done, the rest of the stuff becomes super easy. Okay. Any questions so far? Cool. Guys, that's it. 40-minute workshop. Not too bad. Any questions? Are we all sorted? Okay, so the takeaway I want you guys to have from this: write with purpose, analyze understanding the purpose of other people's texts. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep powering through the coursework. You guys are killing me with marking right now, and I don't want to say I'm loving it, but I can say that I'm quite proud of you. Okay, keep it up. last little stretch, and then